Hey, Amy. Well, hello, everyone. I'm so glad to be here. So glad to be sharing Screencastify with you all. First of all, I wanted to do a little formative assessment before we get started. And I don't know if you all are familiar with how to do the hand raises at the bottom of Zoom. But if you are, I would just like to know first, who has never used Screencastify? You have never used Screencastify. If you could just do the hand raise. I would like to, just going to poll the audience. Never use Screencastify. Awesome. And who has used Screencastify, but you're maybe not comfortable with using it? You've used it some, but you're just not comfortable. Okay, so lots of hands. Excellent. Who, and if you all will, you can put your hands down, those of you that raised your hands. Who feels that you're very comfortable with Screencastify and you use it on a regular basis? Who would that be? Okay. All right, excellent. Well, I'm hoping that this session will really be beneficial to you. If you've never used Screencastify, my plan, and whenever I do presentations, is really that it is a hands-on presentation. So I'm going to try to build in time that you can actually go through the steps as I go through the presentation. So you can go ahead and set up an account. If you've never used Screencastify, I'm going to give you time to set up your account. You can go ahead and even do a do a demo video if you like. So without further ado, we'll go ahead and get started, and I'll go ahead and share my screen real quick with you all. Okay, so using Screencastify for remote learning, and honestly, you can use Screencastify anytime. It doesn't even have to be for remote learning. And I'm going to give you some tips and some tricks on some ways that you can use Screencastify other than just remote learning. Also, if you want a copy of the presentation, there's a bit.ly link here. It's bit.ly/capital K, capital E, capital T, and then all lowercase Screencastify, and that should get you the presentation. And Amy is really good about popping that into the chat. I try not to monitor the chat because I get distracted. So I'm sure that she will pop that in the chat for you all to have a copy of. Okay, well, let's go ahead and get started. So the first thing that you do need, you need to open up your Chrome browser because Screencastify works in Chrome. So I'll just give you all just a minute to get Chrome pulled up. It doesn't work in other browsers, unfortunately. The extension doesn't. Okay. So next, some things that you are going to learn today is what Screencastify is. And later on, if we have some time, I'm going to show you how you can put Edpuzzle with Screencastify. And you are also going to be creating a video as well. So I hope that by the end of the session, you will feel comfortable with creating a video on your own. Okay, and this is just a summary slide to just like once the session's over, I like for you to have just a summary slide so that you can see exactly what we talked about during the session. And this is just a little summary of all the things that we will talk about during this session. Okay, so to get started, this Screencastify, this link here actually goes to the Chrome extension. So if you have never used Screencastify before, if you will click on this link, it will take you to the Chrome extension that looks like this. Okay. And again, I'll give you all just a minute to get there. It's in the Chrome Web Store. Now mine, since I have already installed it, it will say remove from Chrome, but yours should say install. So if you will go ahead and install that extension. And once you have installed it, you are going to see it up in the extension toolbar that's in Chrome. Now, some people have many extensions in their extension toolbar. So if you don't see it, there is a little puzzle piece that shows all of your extensions. So if you click on that puzzle piece, and you can scroll down, and the Screencastify extension, it looks like an arrow pointing to the right, and it's melon colored, and it has a camera inside it. So that's how you launch Screencastify. So again, you should see the melon colored arrow that's pointing to the right. And if you will hover over that, it will usually tell you what those extensions are. So there, the Screencastify extensions should be installed. Okay, so just a couple of things in case there's some others that maybe need to keep going through the process. A couple of things. So it is free with limited video time, meaning that you can have an unlimited number of videos, but those videos can only be 5 minutes per video. And I know as an educator, we take longer than that to create our videos. So in my opinion, Screencastify is one of those extra cost things, I guess you could say, that I always splurge for every year. I pay, and right now it's actually on sale for $29 a year with unlimited video. So you can make as many videos as you want, and they can be as long as you need them to be. And it's only $29 a year. There is a link here if you wanted to purchase that, the unlimited video license. You can click there and purchase that. And I want to say that the $29 a year is just for a limited time. So, but again, in my opinion, it is really well worth that $29 a year to have unlimited videos and unlimited time for your videos. Okay, so it is your screen recording solution. Basically, what it is, it records your screen. So you can be on any web page, you can be doing a presentation, anything that you can possibly think of, and Screencastify will record your screen for you. Okay, so, and I just wanted to throw this in there. Many people ask, what are some ways that we could use Screencastify in the classroom? And there's actually a link here that gives you some other ideas, but these are a few that I personally use myself. And other than, of course, giving direct instruction. Of course, giving direct instruction during whenever we were in COVID lockdown, that was a huge deal. And Screencastify was, it was essential whenever we were doing remote learning. But aside from just direct instruction, one thing that is really good is to give substitute instructions. So if you have to be out, you could actually go through your entire lesson, post it to Google Classroom, and the substitute is not really teaching your class. They are just standing in as a monitor, and you are able to teach your class even though you have to be gone. So I love using Screencastify for whenever you have to miss. A weekly overview. So I was blessed to have 3rd grade whenever we went to remote learning. I was able to take, I was asked to take a 3rd grade class and teach it remotely. And one of the things that I decided to do was to just do a weekly overview. So I used Screencastify, and I recorded just a really quick 1 to 2 minute, what are the expectations for this week? And I always posted that Sunday night to Google Classroom, and the students knew exactly what we were doing for the week. Sometimes we would have dress up days, so I would tell them about the dress up days. I also gave some shout outs during that weekly overview. So if students had met the criteria from the previous week, I would actually call out their name and say, hey, good job. So the weekly overview is something really good that you can do you can use a Screencastify to do as well. Station instructions. So I don't know if there are many of you that I'm a former library media specialist, and we use rotating stations all the time in the library. And with Screencastify, you could actually record instructions for the stations. And then if you have littles, you can create a QR code, and those littles can go around with an iPad, scan the QR code, and see the station instructions. So that's another really neat way that you can use Screencastify. Providing feedback is another one. So let's say that you have a student that turns in maybe a research paper or some sort of project to Google Classroom. You can go through and really give some explicit feedback by going through their paper, maybe making some digital highlights or digital annotations, and then telling them exactly some of the things that maybe they need to improve upon, or even things that you think that they did well. Assess learning. And I love this example. Our band and orchestra teachers in our district, they just did like a little training with me, a little sit down training on how, of course, this was during our remote learning during COVID. They wanted to know how they could listen to their students play their pieces. So we figured out how that students could use Screencastify to record themselves, and then the band and orchestra teachers could listen and do some critiquing and helping them out even while we were shut down. So I loved that they reached out to me and asked, well, how could we do this? And that really Screencastify helped to solve that problem. Another thing is virtual field trips. I mean, there are all kinds of live feeds with zoos and museums and all kinds of things that that are available now online. So you could actually do a virtual field trip and go to one of those live feeds and maybe even talk about what's happening, ask some questions to your students. So virtual field trips, that's another way that you could use Screencastify in the classroom. So I know I've talked a lot. I'm going to just pause for just a minute, Amy, and see if there are any questions about anything that that I've talked about.
I don't see any yet.
Okay. Now what I would like to do is see if, just from doing a little bit of brainstorming and giving you some ideas, if you would in the chat, what are some ways that you think you could use Screencastify in the classroom? And just throw those in the chat, because I love that we can do this remotely. We can just kind of bounce ideas off of each other. So what are some things that just from the ideas that I've just thrown out at you, it's only 6. What are some things now that you are thinking that maybe some ways you could use Screencastify in the classroom? And Amy, if you want to, if anybody throws anything out there, if you want to share those, that'd be awesome.
Sure, they're starting to roll in. We have some comments about using them for sub days, introducing yourself to your students before they come into the building.
Oh, that's a great one. I love it.
We have some people thinking about how to do like a library orientation for their freshmen using Screencastify.
Awesome.
An overview of all the different sign-ins. We all have 6 million sign-ins. How students can sign into all of their different online tools like STAR, Mac and VIA.
That's awesome.
Some say they use Amanda Taylor, so she uses it to make her daily school newscast.
Oh, that's great. That's awesome.
Software tutorials, how to log in to Clever, research lessons, dividing things into smaller segments so teachers can use them at their convenience. So STLP projects.
Whenever you mentioned the library, I just happened to think of this. So whenever I was a librarian, some of the procedures, I would use Screencastify to go over procedures for the library. So yeah, that's an excellent idea. Okay, well, just keep them coming. And this is the part that I love, because this is where I learn too. And I love to collaborate within these sessions. So all of those are some great ideas. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and record our first video. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and pop out of the the session real quick. And I'm just going to go ahead and go up here to the extension. I'm going to go ahead and click the extension. And when I do that, you're going to see some options. Okay. So the first thing, and probably in my opinion, this is the most important thing that you need to know about Screencastify, is what you are actually recording. So you can record your desktop, and that's what is highlighted right now. And the desktop means that you are actually going to record every single thing. It's as if you're looking at your screen. So if you were to flip between tabs, like browser tabs at the top of your, when you have Chrome open, it's going to record all of that. So that's recording your desktop. And typically that's what I do. If I am presenting a lesson and maybe I'm showing a presentation, I'm going to click record desktop because I want the students to see everything that I am presenting on my screen, even if I'm flipping between browser tabs. So I may be going to a website and explaining something and then flipping back to my presentation. That's where you are going to use the desktop. The other option is browser tab, and I'm going to be honest, I never use this one. That's where you are only going to record one specific browser tab. So for example, here I have 3 tabs that are open. If I click browser tab, it's only going to record this one browser tab where I originally clicked record. Whenever I click this button here, whichever browser tab I'm in, that's the only thing that will be recorded. So in other words, if I start flipping between tabs, it won't record that. It's only going to record that one that I initially started recording in. The other option is webcam only. So webcam will record, for example, if you were to open up your camera and you see yourself, that's what's being recorded. It's recording whatever your camera sees. And a situation where you may use the webcam only is, so for my husband is a math teacher. So he sets up his Chromebook on his desk. He does webcam only, and then he will use his whiteboard to record his lesson. So that's a situation where you would use webcam only, where you are like standing at a board and you're recording your lesson. So I just want to be very, very clear on the differences with desktop, webcam, and browser tab. And again, I never use browser tab because I always like to flip between tabs when I'm doing a recording. So typically I just use either desktop where I'm doing a presentation, or I will do webcam only where I'm actually wanting to record myself or record my whiteboard if I'm doing like a math lesson or something like that. So just so that we're clear, if you all can like do a thumbs up or raise a hand, everybody understands that, and we can move on, because that is something that is really, really important. I want to make sure everyone understands. Awesome. I see people raising their hand. Good. And again, this will be recorded. So if you want to go back and rewatch just so that it gives you a little bit of a refresher, feel free to do that. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and click, and this will be what will happen the first time you use Screencastify. Typically, after you've used it one time, you won't have to set up your microphone access or your camera access anymore. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to click Set Up Microphone Access. And basically, you're just giving permission to enable your mic and webcam. So I'm going to do that, and I'm going to hit Allow. And OK. And OK for my camera. Now the tools are annotation tools, and annotation tools just means that you can actually write on your screen and it will record it as you're doing your recording. So I'm going to go ahead and enable those tools, and it says that we are good to go. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to click on the extension tab again. And now you can see that those things are ready to go. So if I wanted to toggle here and turn off my microphone, I could do that. I can select my microphone. So if you have an external mic, it would pick that up. And I'm using my MacBook, so I'm just going to choose MacBook. And this is one of just the best practices that I always like to talk about is enable webcam. So if you are recording your desktop, I just would recommend enabling your webcam, because it's really nice when your students can see your face whenever they are, for example, if it's remote learning. It just makes it more personable. It makes your lesson where it gives them more of a connection to who you are. Okay, so another thing I want to show is where it says show more options here. Sometimes people don't look at that, but honestly, I think it's pretty important. So this is where it gives you a countdown to do your recording. And whenever I first started recording my lessons or doing a recording, you have options here. So you have 3, 5, and 10 seconds. And I always did 10 seconds because I was just a little bit nervous about getting started. So if you're just starting out, by all means, do the 10 seconds. So it kind of gives you a little bit of time to take a breath before you do your recording. Now I usually go to 5 because 3 is just not enough time for me to get my composure. So I usually just pick 5. The default is 3. So if you don't open this up and you just click record, you only have 3 seconds to get started, to get ready to get started. So I'm going to click 5. And then the show drawing tools, if you enable that, then you are going to see a little toolbar that's going to be down in the bottom left-hand corner of your screen, and that will give you some tools that you can use to write on your screen. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and click record, and you can see that my webcam is going to pop up down in the bottom corner, and I'm going to allow my system to record my screen. So let me go ahead and allow those permissions. Now, whenever you're going to see this window that pops up, and it's going to ask you what you want to share. If you want to share a window or if you want to share your entire screen, and I always just click entire screen. And then when you see your window here, you do have to click on that window before that share, the blue share button will pop up. And sometimes a lot of Oh, yes.
I'm so sorry to interrupt. I think you have a pop-up maybe on your screen that you're seeing that we're not.
Okay.
So we don't see when you have that pop-up with the ability to share and choose where it's from. We don't see that on your screen. We still just see your slides.
Okay. Well, I'm not, that's odd because I thought they should be able to see that. But so let me just explain. And if you are at this point, you should see a box that says choose what to share. And under that, it will say entire screen or window. And where it says entire screen, you should be able to see your computer. And you actually have to click on that screen before the share button will turn blue so that you can actually share your screen. I hope you all can understand that because it's so much easier if you can see it. And I apologize. I'm not sure why it's not letting you see it. So my apologies. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and click share. And you can hear the countdown, and there's some numbers that popped up on the screen. Amy, could you see the numbers that popped up?
Yes, we can see it now.
Okay, excellent, excellent. So right now I'm actually recording my screen. And again, I can go through and I can open up different tabs if I want. And I can share different things with my students. And again, down at the bottom, I'm going to move my toolbar over here just a little bit. So down at the bottom is the toolbar that I was referring to that you will see. And this is what you enabled whenever you clicked enable tools. So here are some of the tools. So of course you have your mouse. And whenever you click with your mouse, you're going to see a little circle that's red that pops up. So it just kind of highlights the area that you're at. So if you want to practice doing this, if you want to practice doing a recording while I'm doing a recording, please, by all means, do so. So I'm just clicking around so that you can see that whatever I click is going to be highlighted with that red circle. And then, of course, you have the pen option, and you have different colors that you can use with the pen. So if I just want to, I can do whatever I want to do here on my screen. This is in no way affecting my presentation. Once I stop, that's going to go away. So don't worry that it's actually writing on your presentation. Here's where I can clear my screen. So if I click clear screen, all of it goes away. Also, let me see, let me go back. There are some stickers that you can use. There's an eraser. And then if I want to stop my recording, I can actually do that here. I typically stop it up in my toolbar on the extensions toolbar, but you do have that option that you can stop your webcam at the bottom. There's a pause button. So if you wanted to pause your recording, you can actually pause it and then resume it, and it's just going to go, it's just going to start right where you left off. So if you had to stop and maybe you needed to run an errand or whatever you needed to do, you can pause that recording and then you can resume it again. Okay, and then of course the end recording button is this red button here in the bottom corner, and that will actually end my recording where I can now share that. So I'm going to go ahead and click end recording. And what will happen is my recording will pop up in a new window. Now, I don't know if you could see this or not, but up in the top right-hand corner, that file, this video automatically saves to your Google Drive. And there's kind of like a little progress bar that goes across, but it does it really fast, especially since my video wasn't very long. So it did it really quick. And I'm actually going to pause the video for just a moment so that we can talk about a few things within this screen. So now that it's saved to Google Drive, I can actually, I have a shareable link that I can share that out however I want to share it. So if I wanted to email it out, I could email it. If I wanted to copy it and send it to Google Classroom, I could do that. But before I do anything, and this is something that I have made a mistake so many times whenever I was, when I first started out doing my recordings, I want to go up here and I want to name my video. So the default for Screencastify is to just name it the date and time recorded. So just make sure, I'm just going to call this test, K-E-T. Just make sure the very first thing that you do is name your video. Otherwise, you're going to have lots of videos in your Google Drive that's called Untitled that has a date and time. And it will be difficult for you to figure out and find where they are. Whereas if you name it quickly, name it whenever you're here at this screen, it makes it so much easier to find it in your Google Drive. Okay, so from here, notice that my video was playing, but you did not hear my audio. And again, whenever I first started making these videos, I was a little nervous. I'm like, oh, it didn't get the sound. But Screencastify automatically mutes the video when it does the playback. So if you will click here to unmute, enabled whenever you can test the audio. Okay. And it recorded my audio. So we're good. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and go over here to my options to share. Now, instead of clicking copy shareable link, again, I'm going to click more options because the default for Screencastify when saving to Google Drive is that the video is private only to you, meaning that you are the only one that can see it with this link. And I typically do unlisted at my school district. Now that's if I'm teaching kids. So if I'm teaching kids and I only want the students in my district to have access to this, I'm going to choose unlisted in my district. But there are other options. Again, this means that the student would have to actually click on it to get it, to be able to view it. Okay. Again, there's private. Let me move this down real quick so you all can see. There's private where only you can view the video. Public means that anyone can find and view the video. So if you have a link and you put it on your web page, maybe you want parents to have access to it. That would be when you would want to use public. Okay. And then unlisted, the people have to actually have a link to be able to see it. And that could be anybody that is outside your district even. Okay. So I'll pause right there for just a minute. And I know that's a lot to take in. So if anybody has any questions about that, just let me know and I'll see if I can answer them. Okay, so if I want to view this video on my drive, I can do that. Again, I'm going to go ahead and change this to unlisted at Grayson County Schools because that's typically what I would do. And then I can simply copy this link and I can post it to Google Classroom. But there are some other options here that you can do as well. So I'm just going to do this little drop down box so you can see some other options, other things that you can do, other ways you can share your video. Publish to YouTube. Now, I just want to say why this is such a great option. As some of you may or may not know, if you are doing a presentation with Google Slides or Google Sites, if you're using Google Slides or Google Sites, and you publish to YouTube, you can copy that link from YouTube and embed it in your Google slide or in your Google site. And what that means is if you have a student that's viewing, say, a Google slide presentation, they can click play within that Google slide from your YouTube when you embed your YouTube video, and it will just play automatically, and it doesn't have to pop out to YouTube where they see all the ads and all that stuff. So I love this publish to YouTube option for that very reason. Whenever I'm doing and honestly, I'll just be honest, this is typically what I use. I will typically publish my video to YouTube, and then I grab that link from YouTube and I'll embed it in a Google slide presentation so that my students can watch it without having to click so many times. It just seems to be a little bit easier, especially for littles. Okay, there's also where you can get an embed code if you wanted to embed it in other, like if you have a Weebly or something like that, you can grab the embed code. You can send it in an email. You can also, again, I mentioned generating a QR code. So if you were to create some directions for stations, you could generate a QR code for that particular station so that your littles could scan that QR code. You can publish this directly to Google Classroom, which is so handy. It's just a great feature. You can also upload to Edpuzzle, and if we have some time, I'm going to talk about that for just a few minutes, because to me, this is a game changer. You can record your lessons. I don't know how many of you are familiar with Edpuzzle, but Edpuzzle, it houses many, many, many videos from different sources like National Geographic, Numberphile, YouTube, there are all kinds of databases that Edpuzzle uses to just house videos. And you can actually upload a video that you have created of some direct instruction. And with Edpuzzle, you can add questions to that video, and it self-grades those questions. So I don't know if you all if you've never used Edpuzzle, it's phenomenal on its own. But when you use Screencastify together with Edpuzzle, it is phenomenal, because it also has a feature where you can see if your students have watched your videos or not. And anybody that does direct instruction by recording themselves, doing a blended classroom or a flipped classroom, I would highly recommend to check it out, because you can see whether or not your students are watching your videos. So it's such a great resource. Okay, a couple other things that you can do. You can download your video if you want. You can export it as an MP4. You can even create animated GIFs, and that's another training. But just know that is an option with Screencastify. And I feel like, I know there are other screen recording options out there. I just love all of the options that Screencastify gives you, and gives teachers and educators. There are just so many different things that they can do with these videos, and not just recording a lesson. I mean, with all these different options, it really makes doing recordings there are endless possibilities to what you can do. Okay, so with that, I'm going to pause again, Amy, and see. I know that's a lot of information, so I'm going to see if anybody has any questions. Okay, so this is actually just going to give a little summary of what I just showed everyone. One thing I do want to point out, it says here to go to any web page that you would like to record. There are some places on the internet, for example, a Google search. If you go to a Google search, you cannot use the annotations, because it's not really a web page. A Google search is not really a web page. It's more of it's a web tool. So if you happen to get to, like if you are on a Google search and you're trying to do a recording, you're trying to do a Screencastify, and you notice that the tools are not enabled, that's why. You actually have to be on a web page or on like Google Slide or something like that. So just be mindful if that happens to you and you see that you don't have those annotation tools available. If you'll just go to a different web page, you should be fine. Okay, so just a couple of did you knows about Screencastify. You can crop the beginning and or the end of your video. And something that I usually tell teachers whenever they're just starting out is if you kind of stumble over your words when you first start recording, just start over, because you can crop out all of the beginning that you want. So for example, if I were to start out and I said, good morning class, and it's actually good afternoon, I'm like, oh no, I messed up. I could just say good afternoon class, and then I can crop off part of my video. I can just crop that beginning off. So just kind of keep that in mind, that you can crop the beginning or the ending. And so many times when I do my videos, it takes me just a minute to go up and stop and end. And so I usually will crop the ending off of my video too, so everything looks very seamless. Another did you know is that you can download it as an MP3. So it's audio only. And maybe you want to use your audio as a voiceover for a lesson, and you can do that with Screencastify, which is really cool. There's also an editor feature with Screencastify, and this is pretty new. I'm going to say within the past couple of years they've added this editor feature. And that actually allows you to kind of cut in multiple Screencastify videos together. So you can rearrange the videos, you can cut some of your videos in the middle. There are lots of neat things that you can do with that editor feature. And I have included a tutorial here in my presentation. It would take longer to explain how to use that editor feature. It's not complicated, but in the time that we have, I wouldn't have enough time to explain it. So I did include a tutorial so you can maybe go back and learn how to do that. But that's really, really, really a neat feature that they've added recently. Okay, and this is so cool too. They also have added some certification courses for teachers and students. So this one, the first one that you're going to see here, the Master Screencaster, that's for students. So you could let students go through this certification course and they would completely know how to use Screencastify. And they could be a leader in your class and maybe even help some of the other students to learn how to use Screencastify. There's also the Genius certification and the Master Screencaster for teachers. So those are some, and there's a link here if you're interested in getting those, and they'll send you this really nice badge that you can add on your email signature if you wanted to do that. So that's a really, and it's a really great way to learn more about how to use the product as well. Okay, so you should be done if you went along with me on how to create a video. And again, I would love for you to explore Edpuzzle and see how the Edpuzzle works with Screencastify, because it is such an awesome collaboration. I say it's like an awesome marriage when you take that Screencastify video and put it with Edpuzzle, and then you can add questions to your own instruction. And those questions are graded by Edpuzzle. So you can do multiple choice questions, and it's phenomenal. I see a question is there a limit to how long the video can be? So with the free version, the limit is 5 minutes, and that's why I encourage you to purchase and it's only $29 for a year. So with the $29 subscription, you can have an unlimited amount of video, an unlimited number of videos, and the video can be as long as you want. Awesome. It was great. And again, whenever I ask feedback from the audience, I learn things too. So I love that you all, and I encourage you, anytime you go to a professional development, share, because I know even as a presenter, I'm always learning. So always share. That's great. Thank you all so much. I thoroughly enjoyed it.